Welcome back. Today, we are with Mandy Morris, an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and manifestation expert who is the creator of Authentic Living, an online company designed to help individuals reconnect with their authentic selves to find purpose, peace, and deep healing. Mandy and her brands have been featured in media outlets that you may have heard of, such as Shape, Mind Body Green, The Chalkboard, BuzzFeed, Well and Good, and Thrive Global, as well as on notable podcasts, including The Jenny McCarthy Show, Your Own Magic, and Hungry for Happiness. Thanks for being here with us on the Dream Life is Real Life show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about this conversation.
Yeah, right. Like you said before we hit record, let's just organically see where it goes.
Always.
I know you and I are in alignment, even just how you named your work and what you're up to, authentic living. Like this is just a word I have been unable to escape over the last year or so. And I'm curious where it came into your world and why, tell us kind of where authentic living came from.
So funny enough, this was before I ever knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I did not think that I was capable of owning my own business. I was like, tell me what to do and I'll do it. But years prior, I was in a really, bad relationship, funky space in my life. And I had moved to Florida for a job. And I spent 30 days. I was broke, no joke, had no furniture or anything. I'm sleeping on the floor and I was happier than I'd ever been. And I realized that I had found my authentic self. Being a people pleaser most of my life and the traumas that I'd had, I didn't know who I was. And all of a sudden I'm in this completely new state, totally alone. And I was like, this is me. This is the authentic me. And so fast forward a couple months later, when I started to birth my company, Authentic Living started falling out of it because I was like, if I can get people to feel the way that I feel, and it's that like authentic version of you, oh, done. Like that's what I'm going for. So that was kind of how the name at least was birthed.
Okay, I love that. And I can so relate because honestly, people ask me a lot, like, what should I name my thing? Like naming, as like someone who does branding and marketing, I get that question a lot. And I always ask the question of like, what do you say all of the time? What do you journal all of the time? Like, what are those key words that you use? Because that's how in this show was born too. I just was like in the same broke, no joke phase of my life, but I was in California. I was learning how to be a life coach. I was exploring personal development. I was learning about manifestation. And I just kept exclaiming like, dream life is real life. Like there's footage of me on the beach in 2017, just like frolic, like it just came out of me. I had no idea it was going to be a business or a podcast or anything like that. So yeah. I love how you just kind of, like the natural evolution of things. And
totally super organic.
Yeah. How has that common thread played out in your company and your business since? Have you continued to follow just kind of things presenting themselves? Or did you have once Authentic Living was launched, did you have a pretty clear, 5-year plan? Or how has it played out since?
Not even close. Oh my gosh. I remember every time I'd write a 5-year plan was when I didn't have a business and I wasn't successful. So not that I'm shunning it. I think it's fantastic, but I noticed that the most abundance and happiness and service to the world birthed from me following breadcrumbs, because especially in the entrepreneurial world or in business or in purpose work, you're always pivoting. The world changes so fast. And so instead it was just breadcrumbs of what does the world need from me today? What can I readily and easily give? What am I capable of? And programs keep getting built. And manifestation, actually, like my background's in science and psychology and prove it to me. None of the woo-woo per se, but the manifestation, I was like, oh, I'm changing the conversation around this. This is a science and this is something that everyone needs to understand. So it just, after a couple months, I was actually Mandy Morris helping men start over when I first began. Yeah. Authentic Living was birthed maybe 6 months after I started, quote unquote coaching, and manifestation popped up soon after that.
Yes. Okay, yeah, I went through a phase of having to call it quantum physics, which it is, because I'm also a psychology nerd and all of that kind of research-backed stuff. But there's so much real life data of manifestation and playing with energy being absolutely real and scientific even.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like you've had to like rewrite the rules. You mentioned, like reprogram, adjust, obviously there's a lot of mindset work that goes with that, but how do you talk to us about like really being honest with yourself and truly leading with that authenticity, not the 5-year plan, but playing with energy, following your heart. Like, talk to us about how you've been able to rewrite rules as you've needed to.
So I say, like, if you want to figure out how to grow like as massively as possible or master yourself, be an entrepreneur. And if you want to 10x it, do it in the self-development. So when I looked at, I want to help the world, of course I have to help myself first. And so just about every rule I had to be broken. I perceived that if I was going to be successful, that no one would find me attractive because of trauma from the past, that a successful woman will turn men away. I thought that I was unworthy because I hadn't had everything figured out. I mean, I had every debilitating belief, or I call it counter manifestation, every counter manifesting thought I absolutely had. And so instead of me running away from life or shoving everything under a rug, like I was so used to, when I started stepping into purpose and wanting to create a business and do this service to the world, whatever it looked like in every moment, that's actually how my company was built. It wasn't like, I want to start a business. That was awesome. It birthed from that. But it was, how do I do my purpose work? I'm here for a reason. I'm so unhappy. Like, higher power, show me the way. And then it just kind of, fell in through there. And every time that a new rule or a limitation or something that I realized I had once, kind of worked around and lived around and recreated in that certainty couldn't belong. It didn't exist where I was going, and the new vibration, the new reality that I was moving towards, I'd be like, okay, so what is the rule? And let me break it. And we have to live by rules. So I need to build a new one, but it has to feel less, constricting. And so every day it was, I'm growing, I'm mastering myself, I'm learning about myself, and all these beautiful blessings and manifestations, including creating Authentic Living, which is now this incredible global company, that just came along with it because I was taking those breadcrumbs of growth that was presenting itself, instead of saying, I'll just avoid this one over here, or no, I'll deal with that one tomorrow. It was, I'm empowered. I love myself enough. I'm not judging myself through it, but this isn't me anyways. So I need to get to the true authentic me. And there are some rules and some layers that need to get peeled off.
Yeah, unpeeling the onion. Are you familiar with Byron Katie, The Work?
I know the name, but I haven't read any of the work.
Yeah, I was curious about what you were meant with counter manifestation and like the blocks. And I so appreciate how you're talking about like looking at the trauma and like looking at what the rule is, not just think positive, visualize, go forward. And Byron Katie, The Work, and one of her tools that's called the belief turnaround is what fueled, I can't think of the right word, but expedited, there we go, expedited growth pattern in my business. So every single day I would do this belief turnaround, and it sounds a lot like what you're talking about, where you look at what is the rule? What do I believe? If I'm successful, I'm gonna have to work really hard, or I'm not gonna be attractive. And then you look at it. And that was such a shift for me a year ago, because before that I was just like, affirming, this is my goal, this is what we're doing, like go forward. And then I learned you need this like mental colonic, like you have to get the bad crap out, wash it out, deal with it, and then start putting in the good vibes. Is that sort of what you're talking about?
Totally. Yeah. And I love the way that you put it and what she'd said. So I look at it as two different energies. So you might say, I'm doing it, I'm affirming it, I'm making it happen, I'm grinding it out. And that is one energy. Talk about quantum physics. That's one energy going outwardly that you're sending your consciousness towards, but for a very short amount of time. And so on the other end, we have, what I call counter manifestation, where it's all of the trauma, all of the programming, all of the incorrect beliefs and rules that aren't serving us, but that's also sending out an indirect opposition and energy, a thought frequency that of course we are receiving back. And so whenever we see, okay, I've got to deal with, if I can perceive at least that I'm manifesting all the time, which we are energetic beings, we're human antennas, whether we like it or not, we are always receiving and giving information, little transmitters. Well, then of course, I'm also going to be sending out what's sitting in my subconscious. I call it the subconscious reel. And it is the energy that's playing all the time. So it doesn't matter if you sit there and you affirm it for an hour a day, 23 more hours of the day. It is all of this stuff that's still sitting in the subconscious or underneath the rug, if you will, that has to be dealt with. Doesn't have to be hard, but if you can work with the belief that's showing up and then be like, could there be another belief that's possible for me? Oh, life changes just so drastically. And as you said, it expedites or bends time towards what you desire.
I think health coaches listening can make a connection to when your clients are in the gym for 1 hour a day and you want to give them everything or whatever, you want them to, enjoy that hour, but then they go 23 hours of the day sitting around, not continuing the movement. And I just made a connection of like my morning routine where it's like, there's my 1 hour of like the workout, right, of mindset. But I definitely am learning more and more every day how to work that out in every thought, right? So really, like you said, playing with the energies, playing with the beliefs, and processing trauma. I think this is an interesting conversation for us to explore. If you were able to identify trauma. I think some people have very obvious trauma. They know something that happened to them, but all of us have that like inner child, something that we're still hanging on to. So talk to us more about how we use the manifestation process to heal from trauma.
So I always say there's two pieces. One is we've got our human story and our soul story. We manifest best when we're living out our soul story or our higher self abilities. The human story is rooted in all of the traumas. And so although everyone has a different perception of what trauma can be, I call it an energetic stamp that continues to live with you. And that stamp creates a part of our personality that fractals off. I call them personas. And then we live and die by them. We fall into them when we get triggered and we perceive the world to be different than it really is, or through, some tainted lenses. And so I always say with trauma, thank goodness I've done so much trauma work clinically and everything in between. We do not have to go back and revisit the trauma. Although I like to know like the high level thing, like this thing happened. I'm like, cool. We're not going to go and like visualize changing the scene or all that stuff, because that's so traumatizing. But instead, what is the belief that's showing up now that we have to deal with because of the trauma? So like when I was 10 years old, I had this crazy experience and I had to take an adult to court. And the court didn't happen in my favor. And so it bred this belief of the world is unjust. Now that was a trauma. What happened there? But if I had to sit there and go back and be like, let me heal my 10-year-old self and let me go back into the courtroom and no way. But if I'm like, the world is unjust, that's a belief I can deal with today. And it's so empowering because sometimes the subconscious has buried certain traumas that we don't even remember them properly. So all we need to look at is what beliefs play out and build my reality in the now. And it kind of retroactively begins to heal the traumas because they just can't touch you on a vibrational or mental level anymore.
That's not my truth anymore, right? Exactly. Like I have a silly trauma of someone in 7th grade telling me I don't wash my hair and like, making fun of my hair. And it's like, that's just not my truth anymore. I know exactly how much I wash my hair and, whatever, like I've changed the narrative around that. But I think that's such a powerful takeaway and permission slip for people. Like, it's not all of the hard, deep digging, kicking up dirt to find the root cause. It's, what am I actually like, what's driving my decision making today? And do I want to examine that, or is it working for me? Because some things, don't always lead to limiting beliefs, but if you're running up to the same sort of patterns, I think that's the perfect nugget.
Absolutely. And if you look at like where you're at in life, you can be like, okay, my relationships suck right now, or I can't get my business off the ground, or like a certain area of life. If you're like, I don't know what I believe, what are my beliefs? Look at what type of beliefs you would have in the areas that aren't working. So if you're like, I can't consistently make clients, get into the business, or my relationships are always failing, and this is why, well, then you found the belief. So you can always kind of look backwards as well to figure out the hidden little sneaky beliefs that we tend to live by.
Well said. All right. Are you up for changing gears a little bit? Because
do it.
I am a nosy Rosie and we're on video and I'm loving the aesthetic of your home, first and foremost. Yeah. And second of all, do I see a gate on the stairs? Because you also mentioned hugging your babies in between all of these podcasts that you're doing today. So you're a mother, is that right?
I am a mother and a wife. Amazing.
I'm a dog mom and a wife, but I would love to know, because I think especially as female business owners, there is a totally different balance that we have to strike in being the leader, or more masculine in some ways in our business, and then still showing up in our feminine energy for family. So talk to us a little bit about how you're able to show up with that like authentic living in every aspect of your life. Like, how does it look when you're not necessarily, running your global business, but how do you bring these sort of principles into your daily life?
So I know, especially with my kids, I've got an 11-year-old and a soon to be 3-year-old. And so my 11-year-old, he's actually writing his first book right now. So he is totally, I mean, my husband and I live and breathe what we are. And it's such an honor when people say you are the same person through and through, no matter what you're doing and where you are. And so we've exposed our children to our work, to our love. Even when we're doing trauma work, my son will sit, through it and experience it. And so absolutely, I transition a little bit. I know some people say, like, master your transition, be this, be that. And I think that there's beauty to that, but there's also like the core of what we are. And the core of myself is love, integrity, intuition, those types of things. So those foundational pieces stay with me regardless of what role I'm playing in the moment. If I'm mom, if I am, sitting through an event, if I am talking to one of my staff members, if I'm firing someone, whatever it is, I'm still in that foundation of truth and authenticity and love and so forth. But the human components might shift a wee bit. But I think sometimes, I know for myself, I had old programming that I had to be in my masculine to be in business. And that actually wasn't true at all. We've got this feminine part of us, especially with where the world is going and consciousness is rising. That feminine piece has allowed for me to have the most amazing team members, and they can be like family, but we can also get down to business. So I use that to pull the intuition and pull the love and the creativity in, which is the only reason my business even exists, was honoring my flow. And then allowing for the masculine to come in and say, okay, let's push this out into the world. Let's get into the marketing. Let's do the sales. Let's talk to our team, rally everybody, that type of thing. But I think still, if you lean on your intuition in each moment, people think they have to be something other than what they are to be successful. And I completely disagree. I think we need to become more of what we are, and that's where we discover the success.
Let's talk more about team. I think what you mentioned about showing up as yourself, channeling and kind of balancing the masculine and feminine, whether you're hiring or firing, talk to us about what you found works in making the right hires and keeping great teammates. What are some, you had like 3 takeaways or something like that? What would be your top hiring tips to female business owners?
So hiring tips, this is just for my particular business. Sorry, my husband's there getting me a protein shake. This is authenticity, right?
Team.
Yes.
Team.
Drink up real quick.
My marketing team. You can tell I'm hungry. So I would say first and foremost, and this is absolutely crucial in self-development, especially when you run a business from that aspect, is culture. So they have to be a culture fit. That is a non-negotiable, that they understand the work, but I don't want them to understand the work in such a way that they're going to fangirl it and they're going to ask me for help all the time. And I learned that from Tony and Sage Robbins. They're like, make sure that you know who's around you. And so I always paid attention to, okay, how do I hire in such a way that I've got professionals, but they totally understand and want to support this work, So that would be one, culture. Given 2 more.
While you think, I will
throw one in.
Underscore that a little bit. So I also learned that really well, that you can teach people the tactics, right? How to do some of the stuff, but that culture fit, that personality. And I'm from Wisconsin originally. I got a little like Midwest nice. I want to be liked. I've still got some people pleasing residue, right? And I was really just looking for like, who would be fun? Like, who do I want to work with, right? And the pendulum swings, right? Like, you're really good at the job or you're really fun. And like, you do still need to like find that middle ground. And I've talked about this before on the show, but something that I found really helpful is personality assessments. Like you mentioned, being a psychology junkie in some ways, leveraging things like Strengths Finder, Colby, Enneagram, even knowing their love languages. I actually have a few personality tests in the hiring process now that gives me less of that like emotional look at people, right? Like, I feel like this could be good, or I feel like she could learn it.
Yes.
I love using tests. And that's my like academic background, but just wanted to share that for listeners, and
Totally.
maybe that's something you do as well.
Well, yeah, and I'll actually steal that from you, because in the way that I do it, I'll look at, okay, how are they emotionally? What is going on, in their world, and what are they going to consistently bring to the table as far as a lack of professionalism and so forth. Because, oh my gosh, when you said that, I was like, I've made that mistake so many times where I've hired because I'm like, well, I really like them, or I think that we can, grow them, or, whatever it is. And then it would just burn me so greatly, because if we have huge hearts, we have to make sure that we don't hire takers, right? They have to be, and that is actually, if I had to put 2 and 3 into one, it is hiring someone who is there to serve you and your clients. And just that intention of being, extrinsically serving versus intrinsically motivated in that moment of what's in it for me. I think that's so important. And again, this is specific to self-development, but when you've got folks who are, they're there to serve. You are there to serve. So you need to make sure that your cup is full, that you don't need to worry about your customer service emails, that you don't need to worry about how clients are being communicated things, that information is going out. So having like a proper support system and knowing I am hiring someone with the skills and the natural, as you said, like the natural inclination to support the business's initiative, it's absolutely non-negotiable.
Yeah. So it sounds like you and I both have what I call a leveraged business, in that our team is doing a lot of the day-to-day in the business things, customer
100%.
emails, client facing things. So talk to us. I get the sense you're a visionary. And you have integrators, or you have, like I said, people who are in the business day to day. So would you be open to walking us through a day in the life of a visionary with a leverage team? What does your role actually look like now that you're out of a lot of the day to day in your business and you've delegated and hired effectively?
Yes. So every day obviously looks a little bit different because that's the visionary lifestyle. But if I had to round it off into something simple, first thing is my mornings are sacred. So even though our little one still sleeps in bed with us and stuff, I will wake up slowly. Normally my husband, or if we have a nanny on that day, will come and take my son and get him, situated for the day. My other one's off to school, and it's me time. And that has nothing to do with business. My phone doesn't turn on. I am reading, or I'm typically journaling, talking to my higher power. And I have this one question that I've asked myself for, 7, 8 years now, every single morning. And it is, what does the world need of me today that I can readily and easily give? Because I want my cup full. I know already what it feels like to pour from an empty cup. I was never successful or helpful. So I make sure that whatever I need to do, which is an intuitive process every day, my cup is full. And then I've got a little gym in my house. So then I go and move my body in whatever way feels right. I get all my supplements, my body care done. And then I step outside in nature. If it's cold, I'm probably not going outside, or I'm doing like a snow rolling, cold experience. But otherwise I get outside for a minute, talk to my higher power, and then it's go time. So I'm on my phone. I'll usually check all social medias for a sec, just to make sure no bomb went off and everything's okay, and then check all of the emails, Slack, Help Scout, whatever it is that someone might need from me, which is very rare because my team, some of them are kind of second brains to me now. So they know how I would want things handled. So delegating, task delegating, getting leaders, obviously super important. And then depending on the day, it's jumping on interviews. Of course, during the book launch, it's like, go, go, go. Otherwise it's, are we creating new content today? Which for me, I never say, okay, I've got 2 hours. I better create content. I create content when inspired, which allows for me to create far more content in a condensed time frame, because I like to be super efficient. The ADHD in me is like, I've got a moment of clarity, let's go with it. And it could be at any time. And then the rest, I'm like, la, 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 where did the time go? And then I'm cooking for my family. A lot of my time, again, very, specific to what's going on in the business, or if we're in a launch period, but a lot of my time is self-care and filling my cup up, and serving other, world leaders or folks who can further move my message, and taking care of whatever kind of, I'm a little bit reactive. I hate to say that, I don't promote that by any means, but sometimes a little reactive with the business. So the only times that I'm really getting a call is if something is deeply needed. And then once a week, I have an all company meeting, and that's where they're allowed to ask my husband and I any questions, but I'm like, try to keep it to there. Otherwise I'll think about it for 3 hours after you ask me every single day, because I'm gonna be like this, that. Yeah. So we kind of create compartmentalized time of, this is when we hammer everything out. And then here are the leaders you go to otherwise outside of that.
Yeah, I feel like we're in little parallel universes over here, quantum physics. And I want to ask you so many more questions about working with your spouse and if you're an Enneagram 7 or not, because I think you are, and so am I. But let's talk about the book. Tell us about what's happening with the launch and what that new project means to you.
Okay, I'll be the nerd. I'm carrying it with me everywhere right now. So it's the 8 Secrets to Powerful Manifesting. It's really a compilation of, gosh, probably 15 years of information, research, informal research, you name it. But it took me a couple of years to write as well. It's with Hay House. I'm so excited about it. It is a compilation of the science, the psychology, and the woo-woo, the spiritual aspect of manifestation. But it's like, I want to change the conversation of what manifestation is. Just like we said earlier, authenticity is like this buzzword that got thrown around too much that no one really understands what it is anymore. And with manifestation, sometimes people are like, oh, blessings just plop on my lap and I just can do a couple mantras and it's there. Why isn't it working for me? And I'm like, no, it's so much more than that. But if we master it, this entire planet will change and it will be such a beautiful, beautiful place. So anyways, the book is doing fantastic. We launched on Tuesday. We were #1 bestseller in a couple areas, top 100 books on Amazon. Gwyneth Paltrow loves it. Anthony William, who's a dear friend of mine, medical medium, he was just singing the praises about it. Kimberly Vanderbeek, one of my girlfriends, tons of celebrities and thought leaders and the coolest people, Marcy Shimoff, Dr. Sue, John Assaraf, all kinds of people just coming in to support. And I was crying actually earlier this morning, just gratitude of like, this is when you love the world so much, and then you feel that everyone understands your love and compassion for humanity, it just does something for me because I'm a total helper and I want to serve the world. And my heart is so full when I'm serving. So it's just been unbelievable. This launch has been so exciting and fingers crossed if it's in the highest good of all, New York Times bestseller, we'll see.
Ooh,
who knows?
Congratulations. Yeah, I mean, dream life is real life and so much of what you've already created and shared. And how can listeners, if they are vibing with you and they want to get their hands on those 8 secrets, how can they access the book or, get connected with you?
Yeah, the 8secrets.com. We have a ton of bonuses. So that of course, you can buy it on Amazon directly or Barnes and Noble or, wherever you get your reads. But the 8secrets.com, 8 being the numeric, that is the perfect place to go because you'll get access to all of the extra goodies and events that we're doing to celebrate the book.
Woo-hoo. We will totally make sure that we have the number 8 secrets in the show notes so that folks can access that now and forever into eternity as beautiful podcasting promo links tend to work. We'll make sure that whenever you access this, you'll be able to connect with that resource. And thank you so much for your time, energy, and just value that you were willing to share with us and the listeners today, Mandy.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Wishing you all the best. And listeners, I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life and business real life.